to introduce our next speaker. Most of you probably know him, Kailash. I had the honor to meet him this past April. He came to Lucknow for our Lucknow FOSS conference. Um, Kailash is one of those people who still has his heart in FOSS despite being a corporate sellout. Not really, but there's not many of those people in the world who both have the passion to make FOSS themselves and the funds to, fund FOSS all around the world. So he's going to talk about. Let me unwindows this. Probably just this. Yeah. He's going to talk about his new project called HUML. He told me it stands for humiliating. But I'll let him explain what this is and yeah.
Good afternoon. I was just telling James, this is a new markup language, and I hope HUML doesn't stand for humiliating, because if it flops, it's going to be very humiliating. But before HUML, by the way, it's HUML, HUML. Before we come to HUML, I think we should look at YAML. HUML's birth, HUML's genesis is YAML, the disaster that is YAML. So YAML came out in 2001 as a response, as a solution to the frustrations that the markup languages like XML of the yesteryear gave people. Though dealing with XML was a big headache. So a bunch of people got together and said, we'll create something new that was human-friendly, specifically. Human-friendly, easily readable, easily parsable, easily editable. And they came out with YAML. Originally, YAML stood for yet another markup language, because even back in 2001, the group of people who were creating this new language felt that it was yet another markup language in an already crowded space. And here we are almost 25 years later. But the premise with which YAML started out, we all know that it's aged like milk. Anybody who has worked with YAML, or anybody who continues to work with YAML on a daily basis, be it your CI/CD pipelines or configuration or Docker compose files and whatnot, must have been bitten by one of the many foot guns of YAML. I don't think there's a single developer out there who spent reasonable amounts of time with YAML who hasn't been bitten by it. And most of the YAML horrors are very well documented. If you just search for YAML horrors, you'll see that stuff. These are two really popular documents. Please look them up. If you just search for the YAML document from hell, this is a really popular blog post from a couple of years ago, which documents some really bad atrocities of YAML. And there's another one, noyaml.com, slightly less known. It also documents many of the YAML footguns, but there's one particular one that really blew my mind. There are 9 to 63 different ways of representing multi-line strings in YAML. Now, I don't know how that could possibly be a feature, like a good positive feature for a markup language. 9 is a given, 63 depends on your perspective, so that makes it worse. So please do look it up, it's terrible. This one horror, everyone faces. I face it on a regular basis. I've been writing YAML for, I don't know, God knows how long. And even to this day, I haven't been able to internalize how to write lists properly. So sometime last year, I can't exactly remember the context. Sometime last year, I was working on a complex YAML document, and there was something like this. Like I said, I don't remember the exact context. I don't remember the exact bits of data that I was working with, but there was a structure that looked like this. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to look at this structure. It doesn't matter if you know YAML or if you don't know YAML. In computing, there's common sense, right? Common sense everywhere. Any markup language, something that looks like a list, two little things here, and the third and fourth item being sublist. So just look at this valid YAML snippet and try to visualize or pass it mentally. What could this possibly represent? So 5 seconds. It must be some sort of a structure. It must be some sort of a hierarchy, sublist, list, map. But what it really represents is this. It's a list with two items. The first one is a string. Then the second item in the list is a concatenation of the rest of the three items, specifically separated by a single space, followed by a dash, followed by another space. Now, when this happened to me, now it looks funny. Like we're looking at it and saying, wow, I wasted half a day trying to debug this in whatever context that was. And when I finally discovered what was going on, it really horrified me. Then I discovered this. Just try and visualize what this means. Some sort of a hierarchy, some sort of a structure, substructure, list of a sublist. It's actually this. Even worse. So this is what YAML does to people. And this YAML bites people. At some point in their lives, YAML will bite people. And that day, I really lost it. I've been working with YAML forever. YAML's everywhere. CI/CD configuration everywhere. And it just, from a very first principles perspective, it simply didn't make any sense to me. Something that insults your intelligence, something that is such a big cognitive burden on the human mind. Why is it everywhere? So there was only one solution in front of me. I sat down, thought very calmly. One path emerged. I had a life, like a million things to do in life, but there was only one path ahead. I had to make a new language, which was better than YAML. Very rational choice. This was sometime last year, a year and a half ago. I obviously didn't find any time to work on this or prototype this, but I finally managed to a few months ago. So HUML, HUML stands for Human-Oriented Markup Language. Of course, I looked at all the existing possible configuration and markup languages. Why reinvent the wheel? Most languages here, listed here, are the popular ones. Many of them are configuration oriented. Yes, humans can read them, but they're not really built for human readability. YAML apparently was, but we just saw that it's an illusion. These are just two things that I showed. YAML has like 50 similar things, which are worse. JSON requires formatting. I can write JSON in really cryptic ways. It'll parse, but no human will be able to read it. Most of these things really require formatters. None of these things really offer that guarantee that what you see is what you get. That what you see on your screen, you can mentally parse, and a parser can also parse. So these were the goals. Human readability and editability, I don't think it's a real word, above all else. You look at something, you should be able to visually comprehend the data structures, hierarchies, types. It should be inflexible. That was really key. You should only have one, it should only allow one way of representing something. And it should be as strict as possible, like annoyingly strict. Over a period of time, you realize, I think it's a form of getting jaded, you realize that flexibility in programming languages, flexibility in markup languages, etc., are extremely overrated. I think they're detrimental. There's a fine balance between being flexible enough and opening a Pandora's box of things that go way beyond the spec. So, must be what you see is what you get. That was the goal. And like I said, these are all very subjective. YAML was a subjective endeavor when it came out 25 years ago. Every language design is subjective. So HUML embodies my subjective opinion of what readability and editability means. So I stood on it for a year. Every month or so, I'd think about it, write some specs down, on and on. There was this itch, on and off. There was this itch. And finally, like I said earlier, a few months ago, I put some effort into figuring out how to make this work. It kind of looks like this. This is a screenshot. It looks very much like YAML, but it's only a superficial visual relationship that it has with YAML. I'll quickly go through the specs. The entire language spec is really simple. I think it's just 1.5 pages. It's on the website. Only support UTF-8 encoding. Basic data types, strings, numbers, booleans, null, list, and dictionaries. Numbers, there are a bunch of different kinds of representations that you can do. You can do the scientific notation, you can do octals, hex, etc. So it has that. Only /n for line breaks. Now, that's a big decision. Windows style carriage returns are not supported. Every single markup in the world supports it. Here it'll be a parser error. Like I said, very strict, very opinionated. It uses 2 spaces for indentation, and it's extremely strict about spacing. For instance, if you visualize this to be a YAML document or any other markup, you have keys, you have values, and you can have as many spaces as you'd like after the key, after the indicator. Not in HUML. Every bit where there are extra spaces, they're all parser errors. So the document that I produce and the document that somebody else produces will look exactly the same, because it's so inflexible that you can't even add spaces to stylistically adjust it to your liking. These are all parser errors. Only canonicalized strings. This is a big foot gun. This adds a lot of complexity in implementing parsers. Everything from JSON to YAML to pretty much absolutely everything supports all kinds of encoding and encoded representations of strings. Generally, in JSON documents, if you have this Unicode byte string that represents a cat's face, it's encoded. You will see that /x or /u. But HUML doesn't support it. It has to be the canonical version. It doesn't even support any sort of escape sequences. Multi-line strings are extremely complex everywhere. JSON doesn't even support multi-line strings. Of course, you can have an escape slash in there, but you can't visualize it. YAML supports it, but you can write it in 63 ways. So what you write, I can't read. What I write, somebody else can't read. And imagine the parser complexity. So HUML supports 2 kinds of multi-line strings. One is with the 3 backticks. There's no need to escape anything. There's no slash backticks. There's none of those things, because the 2-space indentation where everything begins puts it in an enclosure. So there's no need to even escape it. If you have 3 backticks, all the spaces, everything that's in the line, it's preserved. So what you see is what you get. And in many contexts, this is what you want. There's another form, 3 double quotes, where whatever you write is stripped of spaces from both sides. Preceding and succeeding spaces are stripped. All languages have, not all languages, JSON doesn't. YAML has this, but like I said, there are 9 to 63 ways of achieving this. HUML offers just 2. Now, this is the really weird, odd bit. There's this double colon syntax. On top, you can see key, value, looks like JSON, looks like YAML, looks like everything else. The second one is a list. It's an array. The key is named list, and there are 3 values there, 1, 2, and 3, mixed types that's supported. But you'll see that it's been denoted with double colons. There's no opening bracket, square bracket, closing square bracket. And the third one is a dictionary. It's a map. You have a key called dict, and you have 2 subkeys, 2 children there, host and port. You'll see that. So why this double colon? I think this is the one thing that I spent most time on when trying to spec out this language. If you don't have a special indicator for vector types, which are lists and dictionaries, you end up needing some sort of an enclosure or some sort of an indicator anyway. Generally, it's square brackets. You can see the JSON, corresponding JSON strings right next to the HUML strings. But the problem with brackets and braces is that once you open them, you have to close them. Mentally, for a human reader, now you have to do balanced bracket matching. For a parser, you have to keep track of opening brackets and balance them and match them. So opening and closing enclosures for vectors is problematic for humans. It's annoying, and it's also complex for parsers. So instead of opening and closing brackets or enclosures, HUML simply uses this double colon syntax. And I think that's the weirdest thing about this. It supports lists, which are arrays. You can write it in a single line, or you can write it as a multi-line array. Now, this is the only thing where HUML allows 2 ways of doing something. And this is also for human readability. Generally, if you have a key and it has 3 short values in a list, it would be odd to look at it like this. The top one looks more natural. So that is left to the writers or the editor's subjective interpretation. For long lists, you can do multi-line. For single lists, you just do this. But there's no nesting allowed. So what you see is what you get. You don't have to mentally keep nesting. It's not allowed. You can't write that. Same with dictionaries. You can have a single line dictionary or you can have a multi-line dictionary. However, nesting and sub-dictionaries are not allowed in the single line format. That's a very opinionated, subjective take, but that's what it is. Now, the cool thing about this project was that the easiest bit would have been writing the specs. Not easy mentally, but physically that would have been the easiest bit. But writing a parser for this or any other language is an uphill battle. You have to spend time, effort, you have to write tests, you have to iron out all the issues. So I wrote the first parser in Go, and this is where LLM assistance became like a silver lining. If I didn't have LLM assistance, and I've used DeepSeek, Gemini, Claude, whatever has been available, I would have managed to come up with just one parser library, and I would have hoped that somebody takes an interest in this language and they do other implementation. Generally, that's how these things go. People, community releases SDKs and parsers and whatnot. But thanks to LLMs, I put in all the effort into nailing the Go parser. It's a simple, naive parser. And then with LLM assistance, I was able to quickly port it to JavaScript, Python, and Rust was a user contribution. So just as I announce or open up this experimental language, it comes with 4 SDKs to parse the language. It simply would have been impossible otherwise. Now, what's even more important is that anybody who takes the minutest interest in this experiment, you'd like to play around with it. And if you get a plain text dump of a structure that I showed you earlier without syntax highlighting, that's an instant no-go. Now, I've never written a plugin for VS Code or Sublime or CodeMirror or Vim. And if you want to add syntax highlighting for a certain language, you have to write a plugin. You need to know the entire schema system, how it works. I simply didn't have the time. Again, LLMs were like a silver lining here. I was able to generate syntax highlighters for all of these platforms. And with the same thing, with the JavaScript parser and the CodeMirror syntax highlighter, I was able to add a live playground to the website. So there's a to and fro conversion thing where you can convert JSON to YAML, YAML to JSON, HUML to JSON, on and on. So from a project perspective, from the perspective of an experiment that I'm releasing, I realized how powerful this sort of an approach is for adoption. Like I said, if somebody has the slightest inclination to try this out, all the tools are there. From syntax highlighting to parsers to a live playground. You can do whatever you want rather than just a spec. So without all of this, it would just have been a parser. Now, I thought I'd open the website here and run you through the spec, but that would just be boring. You can check it out. It's a single page spec. There are these implementations. You can try it out. And what I would request everyone to do now is to go back to your work and replace everything with HUML. Tell your project leaders, tell your CTO, VP of engineering that we're ditching YAML. There's this cool thing called HUML. And no, just kidding. If it interests you, try it out. I had this itch that I really wanted to scratch, so I built it. Hariharan, who works with me, he's in my team. He's building a DevOps system where is a job sequence orchestrator, like a Rundeck alternate to open source. He's promised me that he'll add HUML support, but I think it's out of sympathy. I don't think there's going to be any traction there, but he will add that. So there'll be one prod system with HUML support. Anyway, that's all that I wanted to share. Please check out the website, the specs, playground. Thank you. To your questions. Please don't give the mic to Anand. He's going to grill me.
So I have a doubt regarding the most skeptical part that you had also mentioned, which was the enclosures. Since this is more of a human-oriented language itself, isn't it more visually better to see the enclosures itself rather than having, let's say, a double colon itself? So right now I can't perceive, like, let's say it's a list of, let's say, it's of 2 dimensions. I can see this not becoming like clean for me to read it, like as you are showcasing it right now. It's good enough to read, but uh, the enclosures make more sense for me to like read, right? So how did you come to the decision that this would alternatively be better than me physically writing that? And about, like, let's say writing one particular character, there you have to again close it, right? Most of the editors now do have the power for completing the other one on your own, so it's not like we are manually writing it, and it's not that it bothers most of us, at least to me. So like, I just want to hear your more thoughts about how exactly did you come to this conclusion that this will be better for uh, HUML.
See, better is subjective. Like I said, it's very opinionated. Uh, What you said last is an interesting bit. We have now editors, syntax highlighters, lots of tooling built around all of this. But we've had to build so much tooling. We've had to build YAML formatters, JSON formatters, etc. because these languages are so wildly flexible that without tooling, it's very difficult to work with them. So syntax highlighting is a given, good for visual comprehension. But on VS Code or Sublime, you click on a bracket, it will draw a line and highlight the next bracket. Without that, you can't pass it. So the very fact that some of these languages require, markup languages require heavy tooling to even afford basic readability and editability is a testament to the argument that I'm making, that it should be what you see is what you get. And brackets are bad. I mean, I like brackets of course I like brackets, but we're not talking about, imagine a nested if condition, which is on a single line. How can you visually pass 3 opening brackets and figure out where they're closing, right? So brackets look good on in small little context when you have a small little snippet, but if you have 4 levels of nested things, you now have to mentally match 4 levels of opening brackets and 4 levels of closing brackets. One thing YAML does reasonably well there is that it forces the vertical indentation-based layout so you can visually comprehend, and that's what HUML also borrows. So it's a subjective take, but try working with 6 levels of nested arrays and mentally matching where the bracket closes. It's problematic. And the moment you see double colon here, you know it's a vector. So you don't have to think about it anymore. And beyond that, you just comprehend it visually. Either it's a single line with 2, 3 keys, or it's multi-line. So that's the thinking. It's very subjective.
Hi. So I had a quick question about indentation. Is HUML opinionated about indentation?
Very strict. 2 spaces, that's it. Everything else is a parser error.
Okay. Yeah, because I've gotten a very ambiguous error here. Ambiguous empty vector error.
This is the problem. This is what happens when you're not strict with indentation.
Yeah.
Like
And-
nobody can figure out what's going on. YAML allows everything.
Yeah. And how about white space characters other than space?
Every stray space is a parser error. So after that dash in the list in HUML, for instance, there should be exactly 1 space. If you have a trailing space at the end of the line, that's a parser error.
No, what about other characters that are not space? White space characters other than space?
You mean strings? All strings have to be enclosed. Non-white
Like
non-white space characters in the place of white space characters are a parser error.
parser.
Everything is a parser error.
Understood.
I really like the simplicity and kind of the way you're enforcing it. So one place what I kind of was really confused was why do you actually have 2 different ways of writing multi-line strings? The second one felt like redundant to me. That could be handled in the application where it was basically stripping the trailing spaces with the 3 double quotes.
So this is in fact
This is nice.
Yeah.
The next one. Yeah. So we didn't really see a need for this to be part of the for in the language spec.
so this is a, are we out of time? Well, I have a minute, yeah. This is again subjective. It's a heuristic. If you look at any system, including I think Python, that supports multi-line strings, there are multiple semantics. Even in Go, which has which doesn't have programming language Go, which doesn't have great semantics for multi-line strings, you have this. You have a backtick which gives you static literal strings. So it's literally literal strings versus non-literal strings. Yes, this could have been done in the application layer, but
The reason I'm asking is it felt like out of place because you've been really strict with everything else. Even extra space, tailing space is an parsing error, and you're adding provision for something like that. Felt like this is kind of looking like an exception.
this is the great thing about an experimental language. I'll go change the spec right now and remove this. So I'll take that into consideration and think about it again.
One more. Okay.
He raised his hand.
Hi, here. Hello. Yeah. So, you were talking about the hell that brackets can create, but that needed you to support nested lists, but you don't support nested lists.
HUML supports nested lists, but it doesn't allow nested lists on a single line, where it creates great cognitive difficulty to parse. Multi-line, of course, you can keep on nesting.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I have a bug to report. It looks like inline, you can have inline dictionaries, right?
Yes.
And you're not supposed to be able to have duplicate keys in a dictionary.
Please send the PR.
Will do.
I'll work on it. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so I was just playing around with the playground. Looks like here. I was playing around with the playground, but does this spec allow leading spaces in the first key? So like lots of spaces, HUML : string.
It shouldn't. I have some 170 test cases, and I remember covering this. Is it happening?
Yeah, it seems to be covered. Like,
Could be a bug in the JavaScript parser.
okay.
But yeah, it shouldn't allow, because that breaks indentation.
And I can have embedded strings. So can I have like a HUML document within a HUML document? Is that
Not allowed. So
Not-
that's another notorious thing that Python allows with Python directives, subdocuments, etc. It's not allowed.
yeah.
Seems like HUML is a really bad language. It allows nothing, has bugs.
I remember you had a Viper alternative library for Go. Does that support HUML?
Yes, it does. I miss mentioning that. In the Go ecosystem, for configuration parsing, Viper is the #1 library. It's horrible. I have a long issue thread on the thing. Poor implementation and now bloated. So in 2019, I wrote another alternate library, lightweight, called Conf. And I think it's probably now the second most popular config parsing library in the Go ecosystem. I added HUML support there. So
Lunch is open. We can take one more question maybe, but if you want to leave, you can leave for lunch.
You have like multi-line support for here. You have multi-line support for lists. I was thinking that let's say I have 25 key value pairs, right? And if I read that in a dictionary, wouldn't it be more readable to have that also across multiple lines? In case of a dictionary, key value pair, one key value pair per line. Now, did you think about this, or
it has multi-line index. So if you have just 2-3 keys which are fixed in a configuration, you can put them in one line. If you only have, for instance, host and port, it looks cleaner on one line. But anything more than 2 or 3 things, you should just do multi-line index, just like how we do in JSON or YAML.
multi-line dictionary is also supported, you're saying?
It's supported.
Oh, okay. You simply wrote list there, so I thought it's not supported.
No, it is. Yeah. Single line and multi-line vectors are supported. Yeah. That's all. Done. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.